Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here of the Visionetics Institute. Look, I want to take a slightly different approach to talking with you. A lot of what I do on these video sessions is try to provide inspiration, encouragement, and an understanding of what's possible while illuminating some principles and truths. I don't really get into the deepest and most intricate part of how I operate what I do and what makes what I do so effective. And I want to share something with you today that's a little bit more under the surface, but extremely powerful. And it's a not it if in concept it may be difficult to grab because we function through paradigms that dictate our perspective. It represents the lens we look through based on a number of different beliefs that we've accumulated over the time that we've been alive. And so when a new concept is introduced that is in diametric opposition to what we have been led to believe all our lives, we tend to resist it, we tend to refute it, we tend to dispel it. And so the most difficult thing that you're going to ever encounter is the need to accept something new, to look at and see something new. Hello, everyone. Brandy. Hey, Doogie. Um, and Dougie Doucette, man, I've been knowing this guy since high school, and one of the most selfless people I know, man. Always putting himself into someone else and loving on the kids and boys and really doing something. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Look, check this out. The most difficult thing you're going to ever encounter is the need to embrace a new idea that is diametrically opposed to what it is you have been led to believe all your life. You can't escape your condition without re-examining your beliefs. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes. Your reflection of your life lived out is a reflection of what you believe on the inside. And in order to change your results, you have to change your beliefs. You have to start to believe that some things you have always been taught was impossible is possible. And excuse me, let me turn this off. And that's just something that you're going to have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a concept to you. Now, if you are able to grasp the concept, the practicing out or the carrying out of the concept is actually very simple. It recalls for repetition. In other words, the first 7 years of your life, 5 to 7 years of your life is set wiring you to survive in this world. You're learning all the rules of engagement on a social level, a legal level. You're learning how to communicate with other people in the social environment. You're learning that if you want to eat, you work. All of these different things are primarily in, what's wrong, what's right. Everything is that way, and you're hardwired. Normally, your experiences, your observations, what you're being taught in those days are hardwiring into your brain, and you at the age of 7 are pretty much set on your pathway. Now, at the age of 7, what you have hardwired in your brain will basically dominate somewhere 75 to 95% of your behavior throughout your life unless you choose to change. Most people are so hardwired in their belief systems that they never even seek to examine a new idea or a new substance. So you're here. Now, what we used to believe is that once you get to 5 or 7, that you were pretty much who you were going to be because the brain didn't evolve or develop, or, you were locked into your personality. Now we know that your brain is evolving every day with new information, new stimuli, a new environment. Everything changes. You have these neural pathways that represent beliefs, that represent ideas, that represent whatever, and these pathways also emit energy based on these beliefs. Now just imagine if these neural pathways were full of beliefs that said that poverty is your lot in life, that you suck at relationships, you're never going to be good at marriage, you're not smart enough, you don't have what it takes to start a business, you don't have what it takes to be impactful in your community, you're not going to be a good father, you're not going to be a good mother. You're going to always be like whoever it is they compared you with when you were a kid, and you're never going to amount to anything. You're destined for prison. All of these things are beliefs that can easily be inculcated into the mind and psyche of a child when they're in what we call theta. which is a state in which they are absorbing and their minds are developing and they're taking in all this information and they're taking it from people who they consider to be in positions of authority. So when mama says something to a child, it carries a whole lot of weight, and it's an implant of a seed that is resting within this environment of neural pathways, and that seed becomes a belief, and that belief dictates behavior in that particular area. So if you tell a child that they're not good at math and that seed takes hold, they're going to have problems excelling in math because the belief is that strong. Your beliefs set your expectations. If you're and you will never achieve consistently above your expectations. God meets you at the level of your expectations in life and performance. So you got to understand that if I want to perform at a higher level, I've got to have the belief system to support it. So the first thing you have to do is you have to start creating what may not be there. So if you got, for instance, let's take one thing, poverty, the belief in lack. What happens in these neural pathways is that every belief has an energy level. If it's a negative energy, it's a low vibration, low frequency. And what we have to understand about energy is resonant, meaning it resonates with like energy. It attracts like energy. In other words, you can't have a low frequency, which is a representation of things that you don't want, negativity, negative energy, which can be produced by hatred, anger, jealousy, envy, bitterness, fear, worry, anxiety. All of those are low frequency mindsets and states that you exist in at a certain and given time. Everybody fluctuates because life happens, but the more you stay at a higher frequency, the more you're in a position to attract and engage positive realities. So what happens is, if I'm on this low frequency, because that's how my mind thinks, so I'm thinking about money. So I'm always focused on lack because I've been taught that lack is pretty much where I'm going to be. So even though I don't like the lack, I focus on it. You don't get what you want, you get what you are focused on and what you become. So I'm focused on it so much, I'm emitting an energy that actually causes me to produce engagements and attract people that literally support and facilitate the state that I'm in. So I have to find a way. Here's the tricky part. I have to find a way to create a new reality before the reality manifests in the physical sense. This is what it's called when the Bible says that I call things that are not as though they were. It's saying that I have to be able to speak it and believe it and literally feel it and claim it before I can actually manifest it where I can touch it in the third dimension. So in other words, as long as I'm living in this realm of negativity, I will never experience anything greater in any consistency because I can't produce it. Again, I have to literally change how I'm thinking and how I feel about it and then experience it. So there are these neural pathways, but the wonderful thing about it is there's a thing called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity says that I am constantly creating new neural pathways based on my experiences, based on my thoughts, and based on newly developed ideas, beliefs, and philosophies. So if I change the way I'm thinking, I start to create new pathways. The way we create new pathways is by constantly engaging new information. If all I ever do is stay where I'm at, look at what I look at, listen to what I listen to, and occasionally read whatever I read, I'm not going to make any advancements. It's in the engagement of new ideas, the engagement of new expectations, the engagement of new possibilities, and the constant feeding of your brain with new stimuli that it has not engaged creates a rapid development of neural pathways that will either stay or leave depending on what you do with them. So if you want to change something or manifest something, you have to create the beliefs. And that means you have to create new neural pathways in the brain, which is a physiological process. It's actually happening in the brain. This isn't some mystical thing. This isn't some magic. This isn't some metaphysical or esoteric idea. This is physiological, something that is being studied in the brain through SPECT scans, CAT scans, and a number of other different ways that we monitor brain activity now. MCT scans and all this other stuff. So you have these neural pathways that are literally starting to develop. And there's this idea in this field that says neurons that fire together wire together. So what does that mean? That means that when I create a new neuron by engaging some new idea, the more I repeat it, the more it starts to get hardwired in my brain, and it starts to be a part of my habitual thought process, which in essence creates habitual behavior. So in other words, everything you get is based off of your choices and your behavior. So what controls your choices and behavior? Your thinking. So as a man thinks, so is he. So if I'm thinking poor, if I'm thinking in lack, I'm producing lack. So how do I change it? I start to manifest an idea. Real simple idea. Don't start with nothing magnificent. Start with something simple. I'm going to show you how to do it. And it's real simple. You're going to sit there. You're going to breathe in easy. And I want you to write this down because you're going to go back and you're going to practice it until you're able to get it. You breathe in easy. Close your eyes. And what you're going to do when you close your eyes, you're breathing in easy to relax. You want a relaxed state. Some of us are walked around so tied up and tense that we're literally draining our frontal lobe and our prefrontal cortex, which controls our cognitive function, our critical thinking, our inhibitions, the ability to make better decisions. And we're draining that blood to feed extremities because we're in a constant state of stress. And if you want to know one of the biggest reasons why people do things to you that is absolutely stupid, it's because they're in a constant state of stress, fear, worry, anxiety, releasing cortisol into the bloodstream, adrenaline into the bloodstream, drawing blood away from the prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobe and sending it into the extremities is what is known as fight or flight, because now I've got to defend myself, but there's no real threat. Studies show 40% of what we worry about never, ever happens. Another 20% has already happened and we can do nothing about it. So that leaves 40% right there that we are left with that we need to deal with it. And most of it is insignificant, really has no impact on us. Roughly about 8% of what we really worry about has significant impact. And we don't really necessarily have a direct pathway to do something about it. Someone dies, you don't control that. But most of the stuff we sit up and worry about actually never happens, but we're stressed out about it. And what does it do? The things that we do have a control over, we're not operating in an optimal state, so we miss it. So you're in this state, right? You're going to sit here, you're going to get calm. You want to get as calm as possible. You're going to take one hand, doesn't matter which one, you're going to put it right here over your forehead, plant it flat. But now your eyes are closed when you're doing this. Your eyes are closed, and you're going to put one hand on the back of your head. Now, what are we doing? The front of your head, if we're talking about spiritual world and in the chakra world, we're talking about the sixth chakra or the third eye, which is where you actually, that part of your brain is where you actually have your intuition as well and creativity on the, if you're right-handed on the right side of the brain, because your critical side, your cognitive side, your executive functions, the thinking and critical and all that stuff is normally on the opposite side of your strong hand. So right-handed people, your critical thinking and all that stuff is on the left side. Your creative, imaginative, and intuitive side is on the right side, and it's vice versa normally for left-handed people. Well, you're just going to put a hand over here, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. Why are we putting our hands? Because our hands emit energy, the pulsation of your hands and whatever. So you're literally sending energy into the frontal lobe, which is dealing with the cognitive functions and the intuitions, all that stuff. And then back here is your occipital lobe, which deals with vision. Actually, when your eyes see something, physically see something, it goes back there and it's processed and it's delivered and translated in almost instantaneously into the brain. So it's happening in real time. But when you put your hand back here, you also are giving energy to this area to create vision. So now you can see better with the third eye than you can with your physical eyes when you train it to do so. So we're creating these neurons, right? So you put your hand here now. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to visualize the thing you want. For now, we're going to do something that actually is pretty simple. I don't want to make it too complicated, but there's actually nothing that you can't manifest. So you're sitting here and you're saying, okay, I got this, and my eyes are closed, I'm calm, and now I'm visualizing this one thing I want. Make it simple. The one thing I want. Let's make it a vehicle. I got a thing now for this one particular Range Rover. So it's a Range Rover Velar, and I'm saying it's going to be black. It's going to be black on black. So it's going to have black paint, black rims, black leather interior, navigation system, leather padded steering wheel, which is common for Range Rovers. And it's got this. And so I'm going to have about 5 things that I'm really, really into about this vehicle. And it can be anything. It could be a car, it can be a house, it can be a job, it can be a business relationship, a business, whatever it is. What you want to do is you want to single it out, get it going. And so you're going to say, okay, this is it. So you visualize it. Now you talk about it. The third step is actually sitting up and saying, I'm going to say now, I want you to get something. One of the things we normally do in affirmations is we say I am or I have. We're not doing that here. All we're doing is saying Range Rover Velar, black on black, black leather, black paint, black rims, navigation system, blah, blah, blah. And we only need between 3 and 5 things to actually know and be embraced about it, to give a real good visual. You got a visual, and now you're speaking it. You say that 3 or 4 or 5 times repetitively. And then you move to the 4th step. Now, as you keep repeating this, sometimes I repeat it 20 times, depending on what I'm doing. You're repeating it. Repeat it until you start to feel different about it. Repeat it. And you're in this state. You're quiet. You're away from everyone. And you're doing this. You're repeating it. Now, what you're doing is manifesting through your thoughts. Remember, your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. You manifest everything from a place of what you think. It always begins, no matter what you manifest in your thought. Now, if you're living in a constant state of poverty, you're manifesting that poverty through your thinking. So what you're doing now is you're saying, I want something different than I have. And it may not be you're moving out of poverty. You may be simply, like in this state, changing vehicles. But you're saying, I want this. And all you're doing is creating a pathway to it. And so you sit up and you sit up and you say, hey, whatever it is you want, you say it, you name about 5 things that are associated with it that you are really affixed to. I mean, it's like there. And you want to kind of create the same statement every time. So you're repeating the exact same thing every time. Now, remember, neurons that fire together wire together. So you're creating a great deal of specificity in the way you're wiring this neuron, because this neuron is eventually going to become an habitual idea, habitual thought, habitual belief, which will produce habitual behavior that will move you to the reality of actually obtaining the thing. It's real complicated the more you get out of it and move outward, but it's all working for you. In other words, the universe begins to conspire once you set forth a belief to produce reality that you're thinking about and believing in, whether it's good or bad. So be careful. The next thing you're going to do is really pay attention to the emotion you're feeling. If it's something that you really, really like and want, the chances you're going to start feeling real good about it. The more you repeat it, the more you're able to see it real clearly. You're repeating it. That's going to be a feeling. Name the feeling. Name it success. Name it achievement. Name it. It may be more than one name, but achievement, accomplishment, success. Joy. Name it, because you want to be able to speak it and have a clear definition of what you're feeling, because that feeling will guide you and give you a feeling of where you're at and where you're operating at. It also produces a specific type of energy. Remember, energy resonates and it attracts like energy. So the people you say, for instance, if money wasn't the issue, but you were looking for the best deal on the Range Rover Velar, that energy will attract you to the salesperson or the general manager at a dealership that can give you that deal. Or what if you're worried about the financing? Or what if you're looking for a way to pay for it cash so you don't have to finance it? So many different ways that you can go with this, but you're sitting up and you're creating the reality, and you can create it as specific as you want to. I want this particular vehicle. I want to pay for it cash. This is going to be my last vehicle purchase for the next 8 to 10 years. Whatever it is. So however you're at, where you're at, but you're looking to advance yourself in thinking. Now, what happens is you're going to open a gateway. So you're going to have this emotion. Next thing you're going to do is, while your eyes are still closed, while your hands are still in place, you're going to say, this is my new truth. This is my new reality. Say it 4 or 5 times, up to 15 to 20 times. Say it and literally say it in. This is my new truth. This is my new reality. Now, finally, after you do that, that was step 5. Step 6 is to remove your hands from over your head, or I take that back. Let's keep them there. Let's keep the energy flowing. And I'll tell you why that's so important. Okay, now what we're going to do is open our eyes, and then you're going to look to the left, look to the right, look to the left, look to the right. Do that about 15 times, 15, 20 times. What are you doing then? You're activating both sides of the brain, and you're causing them to work in integration. What we normally do is we're normally either in the critical side of the brain where we're thinking and we're being rational, or we're in the creative side of the brain where we're using our intuition and we're using our imagination and creativity. Well, when you move your eyes back and forth that way, you're activating both sides. What I normally also tell people to do is, like, especially in the morning when you first wake up, brush your teeth with your offhand. Do things with your offhand predominantly early in the morning, and you're activating the creative side. Critical side, the moment you hit the floor, it's already working. So what you want to do is you want to create these bridges that actually take place. It used to believe you can only activate one side at a time, but now we know you can activate and cause both sides to work together. And that's where the greatest form of power comes from. You now have the power to be reasonable, rational, and critically, but while still having the ability to think and create and imagine beyond your current situation. If you can't imagine beyond your current situation, it's going to be very difficult to get out of it. You got to see yourself out of the situation, because how you see yourself is how you live. And so you want to see yourself living the life you desire instead of focusing on where you're currently at. Most people define their entire lives by where they're at. And what happens is they get stuck. So what do you have to do? In order not to be stuck, you got to see something that you can move towards. And that's what you're doing. You're manifesting what you're thinking. And you do this every day for 30 days. This is not magic, so you're not going to wake up on the 30th day and you're going to have a Range Rover Velar sitting in the driveway or a new business started. But I guarantee you, you will have a new way of approaching things, a new way of thinking, and you will be moving toward it. And in some instances, I have seen this work before the 30 days is up, literally. Because what you're doing is you're creating new neural pathways that literally support what it is you're going after. And that's how you get things done, is these neural pathways. This neuroplasticity says, I'm never stuck in my reality because I have the capacity to create a new belief that creates a new expectation through which God, the universe, or life, whatever your belief is, meets me at. Remember, God, life, the universe only meets you at the level of your expectations. How do you change your expectations? Changing your beliefs, starting to sit up and create a new idea, a new concept. And the thing is, the brain cannot distinguish, the brain and the subconscious mind cannot distinguish what is being imagined and what is real. When I sit down and I do that, and I do it every day, I'm telling my brain that it's mine. I don't have to say I have, I don't have to say I am. I just simply repeat it enough that it's inculcated into the mind. It's now mine, and now I'm going to get what is mine. And the thinking changes, the approach changes, but more important, my energy changes. What does that mean? When I'm thinking about the things that's possible, and I stop focusing and worrying about the things that are wrong, my energy changes, my frequency climbs, my vibrations get higher. And now I'm attracting people that function and live and operate on those vibrations. And 9 times out of 10, I'm attracting people who are successful in certain areas that I'm focused on. The reason that a great deal of people are stuck in a negative situation is because everyone around them is negative. They keep attracting who they are. And they don't know how to create the reality without touching it. See, we've been taught that I'll believe it when I see it. And that's great. But you're not limited to seeing it with your physical eyes. You have a third eye. You have something that is far more powerful in envisioning things and seeing things than your physical eyes. So you have the ability to sit up and say, you know what? I don't like this reality. Not only am I going to see something different, I can literally create it in a way that it doesn't exist. I don't have to borrow from somebody else's success and say, that's how I got to live. If that doesn't fit my personality, if that doesn't fit my heart yearning, if that doesn't fit my desires, I don't have to. But what I can do is say, this is not where I want to be. I want to be somewhere where this is happening. I want to be somewhere where I can do this. I want to be somewhere where I live like this. I want to be somewhere where this isn't an issue. That isn't an issue. That is an issue. I want to live here. And wherever that is, I can create it in my mind. And my mind and my brain cannot distinguish that I have not yet lived in it. So it starts to see me as already having it. And it starts to think differently based on the new reality. This is not philosophy. This isn't some esoteric idea. This is science. This is real. This is how you change your life. You've got to literally sit up and start to see it. I see this every day when I work with my clients. I see it every day when I work with kids in the community. The moment you change your beliefs, you change your thinking. And your thoughts are different. Your expectations are different. Your energy is different. Who you attract and have around you, who you can tolerate around you, changes. And so that's 6 steps. That's 6 steps. Play the video back and go get them. It's 6 of them. You want to breathe in, relax, put your hands like I told you. Then you want to envision what it is you're going after. And you can do this as many times a day with as many things as you want to. But what you're doing with each time you do it, you're creating a neural pathway that focuses on that and creates a belief about that. And you start to operate and think in that manner. And you will find yourself, the more you do it, feeling better. You'll find that your health is actually getting better. You'll find that the fogginess in your mind and the frustration in your thinking, you'll find that you're having an improvement in memory and stimuli retention. All of these things are a process of challenging your brain to do more, challenging your brain to see better, challenging your change to emit a higher frequency. There are no more powerful frequencies than those that come from the brain. Every cell in your body is emitting a frequency, but you can dictate what those cells emit by what you think here. When we talk about medicine, we talk about healing, I'm getting a little off, but I just want to give you an idea of the power of your mind, the power of your thinking. When we talk about medicine, we find that when we really look at the studies, that the real medicine versus the placebo, which is placebo or a sugar pill, meaning there's no medicinal value in the placebo, that the placebo is just as functional as the medicine for treating any particular thing. Why? Because it's never about the medicines. It's about whether you believe the medicine will work or not. It's the power of your thinking that's healing you. God designed you to be self-healing. Now, a bunch of money is being made off of selling you medicine and telling you it's working. And here's the thing. I'm going to say this and I'm going to get off of that for right now. But there's a whole lot that I literally teach on this area. But let me tell you something. In order for any chemical you put in your body to have an impact on your biochemistry or your physical makeup, there has to be a neuroreceptor in your brain that recognizes it. So being that medicines are synthetic and made, that neuroreceptor wasn't created for that medicine. The neuroreceptor is created for something that's already here. So even if you need something in your body to help you balance a certain biochemistry or to create what is known as homeostasis, where there's the harmony and balance between the entire existence, mind, body, spirit, and physiology. So you're talking about this thing, right? So that means there's something out there that I can take that's natural, that the body will receive. See, every time you take something synthetic, you put your liver in overload because it's trying to process something that it can't process because it's not natural. It's synthetic. And you put a load on your liver and most of the times your kidneys. And so you're getting rid of a symptom, but you're creating a greater problem. Well, what you have to understand is the mind can perceive whatever you want it to perceive based on your beliefs. I have literally seen with my own eyes a person, my great-grandfather, sit up and be told, you got 2 weeks to live. Tell the doctor, nah, I'm not ready yet. And go through that process probably another 20 times where they've written him off until the doctors just say, I've come to the conclusion that this man is not going to leave until he gets ready. Whatever it is that he feels he hasn't finished, he's not going to leave until he was that strong in his mind that he defied death. That I lived with, and that sent me on a lot of what I went after. Now, how in the world? I'm talking about this guy was, beat up. Leukemia had him at the door. And I've heard the doctor say, we thought by now you'd be pushing up daisies. We don't have an explanation for it. Because the mind is the most powerful thing in the universe. There's a reason why you have couples who live together for 45, 50 years, and then one dies, and then within weeks or a month or so, the next one dies. Power of the mind. You give up the will to live. That used to happen, especially during the Korean War, when prisoners of war were captured and they were put into prison camp. They would start out believing that they were going to be rescued. But after a time, they would start to believe they can't be rescued. And some of the prisoners recall, they would say that he just went over and laid on his cot and he refused to talk to anybody. And by the next morning, he was gone. the power and the energy you emit with your thinking messes with your biochemistry, your energy, the way that energy travels through your body, and everything requires energy and emits energy, and you're controlling it with your thinking. There's a reason why no matter what faith you claim, one of the great things that you're told not to do is worry. Worry is one of the most, worry and stress are killing so many of us because we buy into the reality sitting on the outside without understanding the power on the inside. Now, I'm going to get off of here um, and let you process this, but this is something you can do. This is something you can start doing today. You can literally start to manifest things. Now, what I got to tell you is, remember, neurons that wire together, fire together. You can't have this one thing going and then you sit up and everything else you do is negative. Everything else you say, guard your self-talk. Start to speak positive. Start to speak what you're setting in motion. Start to look at it. Start to move forward. Start to research ways of, if you want to pay cash, look for new ways to create income if you don't already have it. A lot of the things that I've done in creating streams of income over the course of the last 30 years has been because I wanted something and I didn't want to spend what I had and I didn't want to use credit. Credit is a fast way of building debt. Debt works directly against your net worth. And if it's working against your net worth, it's working against you building generational wealth, which is a responsibility of everyone. So whenever possible, we don't want to use credit. We want to create something. We want to buy things that have value or carry value or hold value, or more importantly, appreciate in value. And that's how you grow wealth. And everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. I've told this story before. Again, I said I was going to get out, but I told this story before. I've told it a million times, especially when I'm dealing with people about finance. A guy by the name of Theodore Johnson, back in the, I want to say 20s or 30s, worked for UPS, somewhere up in there. He worked for him for 30 years. And over the course of his career, he never earned more than $14,000 in a year. That was at the height of what he got paid, $14,000 a year. And he knew someone, I'm not sure how, but he knew someone who was wealthy. And he always said, I wish I was wealthy like you. And the guy said that you can build wealth. He said, man, I make $14,000 a year. He said, take 20% of that $14,000 and invest it in something that produces compound interest and growth. And he said, man, didn't you hear me? I make 14, I don't have 20,000, 20% to give. He says, you don't have 20% not to give. The poorer you are, the more inclined you have to be to take a portion of that and invest it in your future wealth. Because the only way you're going to escape from wealth is to create it. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to say, man, you're sure worth X amount of dollars, so I'm going to give it to you. You're going to have to create it, and it's going to call for a sacrifice. And the reasoning that the guy used is, if the government said right now they were going to increase your taxes by 20%, while you would protest, you would pay it. Why not invest and pay yourself that, call it a luxury tax, take it out and invest it in something that produces compound interest, meaning that it grows upon itself annually or monthly or whatever, but you've got to invest in it. Well, this is early in his career or whatever. He, like I say, he got up to $14,000. That's all he ever earned. But he retired from UPS. But when he retired, he wasn't working there because he had to. He was working there because he was fulfilling an obligation he had made long ago in his life, and he was worth $72 million. I think he died when he was like 90, but he retired in his 60s worth $72 million, gave a lot of it away, and still retired enough to pass on to his progeny. And it's that simple. Now, it's a changing in mindset. Again, here, there's nothing you are locked into. If you don't have an E-Trade account or some broker online, and I say online broker because you're going to pay a lot less fees working with an online broker than you are with a stock broker or somebody else directly. Online, you're going to have to learn and research because it's not a game. You can't stand to lose money, and you will somewhere along the line. You've got to learn what you're doing, but nobody knows anything you're not capable of knowing. It's how much interest, effort, and energy you put into knowing. The things that I have become an expert at is because I put the energy and effort and time into it. I became relentless about it. I came to learn at an early age. It's not what I say I want. It's not how excited I get about something. It's what I'm willing to become. How much am I willing to invest in what I'm willing to become? Because what I become dictates what I have. There's nothing I can't have. There's nothing I can't have if I set my mind to it. Now, again, as I explained, when you go through this process, it's not magic. You're not going to sit up and do this for 30 days and it's going to magically appear. What it's going to do is it's going to start to change the way you look at things, the way you see things, the energy you emit, the people you attract, the steps you take, the decisions you make. All of that, it's going to start to do that. And you're going to start to see yourself forming a life that is conducive of producing the thing that you are sitting up and manifesting. It's that simple. Your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. The thoughts are the seeds of your future. What you're thinking now will manifest itself in a physical way, in a literal physical way at some point in your future. You are thinking your future now. And if you don't like what you're thinking, you definitely not gonna like experiencing it. You've got to stop thinking negative. You've got to start thinking positive. And yes, it's hard because we are conditioned to sit up and think based on where we're at. And you got to train yourself to think based on where you're going. The joy in knowing I'm not stuck here. No matter how bad it is, I'm not stuck here. And even if I'm doing awesome, this isn't the end. There's something more out there for me. I can go out and I can get it. I can make it happen. But you got to want to go out and get it. But you can manifest anything. Again, I tell you, it's not metaphysics. It's not esoteric. It's not mystical. It's not magic. It's the way that the universe is designed to operate. It responds to your demands. When you align yourself with your demands, you can't say, I want this, but you're over here doing something you know works directly against it. Look, for those of you that really want to make a move, if you really want to make a move, I would love to work with you. But what I just showed you today, you don't need anybody to do that for you. You can sit up and you can start to do that right now. That's something you can do right now. That's what you have to do. I'm telling you, I've had ups and downs. I've had like unbelievable, like the first 20 years of my adult life, great. You know, I had a couple of hiccups. I lost my great grandfather, which was my adopted father, during that time. Went through a divorce during that time. But I'm talking about as far as saying I want something and going and getting it, bam. But I've also got knocked completely off of my platform, hit rock bottom, landed on my back. But like Les Brown says, when you land on your back, it's not a bad place to be because you're looking up, and if you can look up, you can get up. And I took that in mind. I had heard, by that time, I had heard Les say that, I swear, 1,000 times. So I'm like, yeah. And I remember going through and I'm like, man, I'm not done yet. I'm going back, and I'm not going to only go back to where I was. I'm going to transcend it. I'm going to be more impactful. I'm going to be more focused on helping other people than I am about experiencing life on my own and for myself. Everything I gain is going to be because I put something in somebody's life that they didn't have, that they wanted, that they enjoyed, that helped them. And then I started to look at, I had more power. I became more effective. And I'm just getting started in the recovery process, relatively speaking. But I mean, I'm trying to get you to understand that there's absolutely nothing you can't have. But what we do is we buy into the limitations that people place on us. And the only limitations you have are those you accept with your mind. If you escape those limitations and start to create with your imagination, that's why kids are so wonderful. We sucked it right out of them before they're 5, 6, 7 years old. We're already sucking it out of them. That's not realistic. Stop daydreaming. Get your mind focused on something you can do. And we rob them of it. But they're at their most natural state the closer they are to the womb. The further they get away from birth and the womb, the more they start to assimilate into what's in their social environment. And that's why they tend to see, that's why people think that if you're born poor, you stay poor, because people tend to lock into their social environment and tend to repeat in idea and thought and speech and behavior what produced the environment. But that doesn't mean you have to. You can sit up and say, I made up in my mind early, I was not going to be a person like some of the guys I saw in their 20s and 30s still living in the hood. You know, I looked at them, I saw them, and I moved around, and I did what, as a kid and a young teenager, what I had to do to survive and be comfortable in that environment. I wasn't one to be messed with or played with, and I had a short fuse. But my goal was I wasn't going to live in a place where I had to be that way the rest of my life. I got to be in a place where I can thrive. And I looked for it, and I fought for it, and I took every opportunity I had to escape that. And I'm not any different than anybody that's watching this video. I made a choice. Then I pursued it with everything I had. I'm challenging you to do the same thing. That's it. Make up in your mind, but try this. Run this back. The first part of this video is going to show you how to manifest anything you want. And it's a 30-day process to wire your brain to go after it. And like I said, I've literally seen times where people have realized what they were manifesting before they finished the 30 days. And I've seen people take 3 years, 4 years. But with the longer you take in manifesting something, it's a reflection of how big what it is. What if it takes you 4 years to build a multi-million-dollar business? I think it's worth it. I think that if you build a multi-million-dollar business, you're now earning in 1 year what you would not have earned in your entire life. I think it's worth the 4 years, the 5 years, or even 10. But if you don't start the process, if you don't create the manifestation, it'll never come. You'll be on a job for 30 years hoping they don't fire you so you can claim your pension or your 401k, whatever, and Social Security ain't even promised anymore. And that's just one area of life. You can do this in any area of life you want to. With that being said, let me get off of here. I've been on here 40 minutes, but I've enjoyed sharing with you this morning. Look, you are in a place right now where you can do exceptional and extraordinary things. Like I said, I have a course called the Power of Paradigms course, a course where you do most of the coursework, but you get to work with me 3 different times during the course. There is one-on-one where you're working with me once a week, and we set out a path to go after exactly what it is you say you want. We learn the income at the beginning and we go get it. And there's Critical Mass, a book that lets you inside of my mind to see how that works and what I do with my clients, the techniques I use, the ideas, the thinking. There's a part in it that talks about the importance of your thought processes, and it lays it out. But what I say is get started on changing, get started on manifesting, do something with your life that most people will be blown away by. Your life is more about what impact you have than what you gain or what you get. What you get is simply a reciprocal response of the universe of putting back into you what you've put out. And so when you learn how to take what you're gaining and put it into other people, it comes back to you in multitudinous ways. And that's what you've got to look at. The more you touch lives, the more your life expands and your capacity expands. Money is like a secondary thing when you start to really master who you are and your purpose and what you're capable of doing and use it to help other people. Money becomes secondary. It just happens. With that being said, I got to get out of here, but I just wanted to drop this on you. You guys have an unbelievable day. As I always say, I'm going to live my life on full so that I die on E, and I'm challenging you to do the same thing. With that being said, I'm out. Peace.